I am clearly not a coronavirus expert by any means, but I have done a ton of research over the last few days for a couple of our spring wedding clients whose weddings will likely be affected by everything that's going on in the world. So from talking to their venue, some of their key vendors, even looking at their insurance policies and rereading contracts, I've gathered a ton of information about what a postponement to their weddings might look like. What's so interesting is the two clients that we're most concerned about, their weddings are a week apart, but their situations are so very different. So stick around. I'm going to share a few of the things that I've learned about their particular situations and some of the things you should be thinking about if your wedding is going to be affected by the coronavirus. Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Thitched Academy. My name is Kimberly Rhodes and I'm a professional wedding planner. Have been since 2011, but I have to tell you, I've seen a lot of things in that time, but I have never seen this. This COVID-19, aka coronavirus situation is new for all of us. We are all figuring it out. The wedding and event industry is obviously going to be hit hard. We are all just trying to have a positive attitude and help our clients out as much as we can. One of the things that I've been doing the last few days is doing research to figure out for my clients that are affected what a postponement might look like. For everyone, it's going to be a little bit different just depending on your venue and what their policies are, the contracts that you've signed, and what money might be lost if you're postponing. And so my job the last few days has been to do all of that research for our clients to present them with the information so they can make the best decision for them. Truly, there's no perfect situation here. It could be that a client postpones their wedding and a month from now things are better and they've made all those arrangements for a new date and it could have been the first date. You just never know. But truly having all of the information so you can make an informed decision, I think is the way to go. So if you were in this situation, I'm gonna give you a couple of tips of things that we've done over the last few days that you can also take on yourself in order to make the best decision for you and your family and all of the things. First things first, I would say to look through your contracts, specifically with your venue that you've signed. So we have two clients that we're most concerned about with their spring weddings, and their two venues are handling the situation very differently. While one is allowing them to choose a new date, a forward date in the future, without any sort of fees or cancellation charges, they're allowing all of the prepaid money for date one to transfer to date two. The other venue is basically saying, we're still business as usual. And if you choose to move your date, then you're out all the money that you already put down on the first date and you basically would be starting from scratch. So it really is important in order to make that decision. There is a financial aspect to it of postponing. So it's really looking through your contracts first and foremost to see what your venue's postponement or cancellation policies might be. Step two, I would recommend after reading through that you actually call your venue and have a conversation. Because we are in uncharted territory, it could be that what they have in their contract is going to be a little bit different on how they're choosing to handle the situation because so many people are affected. So while yes, their contract might say one thing, they may be making some adjustments or having some leniency just knowing so many people are going to be affected. You just never know. So I would say step one, read through your contracts, but then step two, have a conversation with your venue. Be a little patient because chances are they're being bombarded with people who are trying to do the same thing as you. I know for me personally, one of the venues I had to call, email, and then call again before I actually got someone on the phone, but having a real conversation with them to find out what are the possibilities, like what are my options is going to be a good approach. For one of our venues, they are allowing our client to pick a new date in the future without any fees or penalties, but I did have to find out what options were available to them in terms of dates. In that situation, our next step is to do a little research with our vendors that we've hired. So if we have new dates from the venue, it's trying to figure out our key vendors, what dates still work for them. Obviously, that can be challenging when you're dealing with a venue plus photographer, videographer, band, florist, cake baker, etc., etc., etc. So our kind of plan has been choosing just 3 or 4 of our key vendors and figuring out their availability. So while I would say I would love for the new date to work for every single person that's already on board, Chances are it's not going to. And so we're just gonna have to pick and choose and figure out which vendor's schedule we wanna work around. For example, we have one date where the venue is available, the band is available, but the photographer is not. And then I have another date where the venue is available, the photographer is available, but the band is not. So we're having to make some hard decisions on which date work best for the most people, and also which vendor categories we're willing to kind of let go or choose an alternate option simply because of their availability and their schedule. And then it also is, if we're choosing a date that doesn't work for one of our pre-contracted vendors, what does that mean in terms of cancellation policies? So you can imagine how one change affects so many different people and then will result in research on so many different contracts. And again, phone calls with a lot of different vendors to figure out what their policies are going to be. For one of our clients, they have a great wedding insurance policy. It's interesting because I don't have all of my clients who take advantage of wedding insurance. This client in particular did, and I could not be more thankful at this point in time that they did. Their policy has a postponement and cancellation clause. And as part of it, they basically cannot postpone or cancel their event because of fear. That was the conversation I had with their insurance agent just yesterday. However, if the venue closes because of coronavirus or the government issues a mandate that their event can't take place, then their insurance policy would go into effect. So for this particular client, their venue is not being flexible on their cancellation or postponement policy. So if they postpone their event themselves, even though the venue is willing to have the event, they're gonna be out all their money. Their insurance policy is basically saying the same thing. If my client chooses to postpone their event, even though the venue is willing to have it and there's not a government ordinance saying they can't have it, then they would be out money. However, if the venue or a government ordinance or a city ordinance prevents the event from happening, then their insurance policy would take effect and any money that they have been paid so far or have been paid out so far would be reimbursed to them, or they would help pay for a new event date. All that to say, this particular client situation is so different because we're choosing to kind of wait it out. If the city says their event can't take place, then financially they're in a great situation. But if they choose to postpone on their own, financially they're going to be out tens of thousands of dollars, multiple tens of thousands of dollars. So we're holding off with that particular client. I will say every situation is going to be a little bit different, which is why looking at your venue and vendor contracts is going to be so important, and also taking the time to have conversations with each of these vendors. Once you've gathered all the information you need in order to make a decision about postponing your wedding or not, I would highly recommend you bring in an outside party. That could be a wedding planner if you have one. If not, maybe it's a trusted friend or a family member, someone who can help you make the decision on postponing your wedding or not from a non-emotional standpoint. Listen, weddings are emotional, and this is a particularly emotional time in the world. But making the decision from a realistic and practical standpoint versus emotional standpoint is really gonna help. So if you can lay out all the scenarios, the pros of keeping the date as is, the cons of keeping the date as is, the pros of postponing and the cons of postponing, you'll be able to make a really good decision and the best decision that you can with the information that you have. Listen, things are changing daily. There's no way to predict what's gonna happen the next week or 2 weeks or 2 months, but you can only make the best decision with the information that you have in front of you. Take a deep breath, it's gonna be okay. I know this is trying times for all of us, especially those of us in the wedding industry. I mean, this is going to be very impactful for a long time for many of us and our businesses, but we're keeping our chins up. Good luck to you. Take a deep breath, wash your hands. If you liked this video, hit that subscribe button. I'll be doing more videos about wedding planning advice, hopefully not all about viruses. And I'll see you soon.